Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Misty, just for your information, Giovanni might be a little late, but I figure we have an item before his, and he should be on, hopefully on time for item number 2.
All right, perfect. I'll keep a lookout for him.
Let's see, we're waiting on a couple more alders. I'll give it a couple more minutes and we'll start. Misty, did you hear back from Alder Singh by any chance?
I did not know.
Okay. You know what, we have quorum, so I'm just going to go forward with the agenda. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Board of Alders notice New Haven, the City Services and Environmental Policy Committee of the Board of Alders will meet on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. via video conference at https://bit.ly/36PEIF and by phone at 646-558-8656. Webinar ID 98039008595 to hear and act on the following items. For required password, contact publictestimony@newhavenct.gov. Item number 1, LM 2020-0405, order of the New Haven Board of Alders establishing a residential parking zone, RPZ, on New Hall Street between Lilac and Ivy Streets. Item number 2, LM-2020-0459, order of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor to accept funding from the State Department of Transportation, CTDOT, under the Federal Fixing America Surface Transportation Act, FAST Act program, et al. In collaboration with Hamden, and sign any associated agreements with the state of Connecticut, town of Hamden, contractors, and other documents that may be desirable or necessary, including any subsequent amendments to agreements to install raised crossings at locations throughout the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail. And then we will follow those 2 agenda items with a workshop to hear an update on the election process in the past general election, details on how the additional funding received from the state was spent, and information on where you need additional assistance for future elections. Per order, Honorable Anna M. Festa, Chair, attest Honorable Michael Smart, City Clerk. These items are on file and available in the office of the City Clerk, room 202 at 200 Orange Street, New Haven, Connecticut 06510. For accessibility related accommodations, please call 203-946-7833V or 203-946-8582 TTY/TDD. Public comment testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. If you wish to present testimony at the meeting, you must register in advance at https://bit.ly/36peif or by calling 203-946-7934 or emailing publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting for the required password. Public can view the meeting at https://bit.ly/36peif or listen by phone at 646-558-8656, webinar ID 98039008595. The password to listen by phone only is 044-147-053. At this time, I will ask the committee members to please introduce themselves, beginning with my Vice Chair, Alder DeCola.
Alder DeCola, Ward 18.
Alder Antunes.
Alder Antunes, Ward 12.
Alder Roth.
Abby Roth, Ward 7.
Alder Winter.
Stephen Winter, Ward 21.
Is Alder Singh here? Okay, Alder Smith.
Alder Honda Smith, Ward 30.
Thank you, and welcome, colleagues. It's good to see you. We will begin with our first agenda item, which is the residential parking zone. Alder Delphine, welcome. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Would you like to say a few words on behalf of this item?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chair. I was hoping that my constituents would be on tonight, but we really need this residential parking here at New Hall and Lilac because of the problems that we have going on that street, parking from other people who don't even live there. Then we have some other problems as well. So I'm hoping that this item do pass. Maybe we will be able to keep watch. It would help us, and hopefully the people who come, who know they're not to be in that area because they don't live there, or have, they won't come. So hopefully this really works for us, this residential parking. So thank you.
Thank you, Alder Clyburn. If you had constituents that were to sign on, do we see any that are on? I'm not sure. There looks like there's a phone number there. But at this point, I will open it up to my colleagues for questioning. And just to clarify, it looks like from the map, it is only one block. Is that correct?
Yes.
From-
Lilac, yes, up to New Hall to Ivy. Lilac to Ivy, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, and that is what the map we received indicates. And is this on both sides of the street or just one side?
Yeah, you could park on both sides of New Hall going towards us, going towards Ivy. So I believe it's for both sides.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I will open it up to my colleagues for questioning. Alder DeCola, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Alder Antunes.
Yes, just one or maybe two. I'm quite familiar with the area. I played around there a lot when I was a kid. And they made some changes since new housing in some of that area. Is that the area that actually has the new housing? Because I know a lot of houses over there close together, there are no driveways.
I could not hear.
Can you hear me, Alder?
Yeah, I hear you too, but it's like not loud enough to understand.
Alder Antunes, do you mind repeating your question?
Yes, just that in that block that you're talking about between Lilac and Ivy, is there any off-street parking? In other words, driveways for the residents or any businesses in that area?
Yes, there is off-street parking for residents, and there is a business there at the corner of Ivy. Yes, it is.
So in other words, is it that there's insufficient off-street? In other words, the residents that live there, do all of them have off-street parking?
Not all. No, not
Okay.
all. Not all have off-street parking in that block.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Alder Antunes. Alder Roth, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Alder Clyburn, for coming to present on this. Can you hear me okay? I know.
It's hard. That's why I'm holding the phone to my ear.
Okay. I guess my main question on the city plan report had said that they didn't have enough information. I wasn't sure if that was just that someone hadn't been there to be able to present, or what that may have been about.
Okay. No one was there to present.
Great, thank you for that. And then I guess my only other question, you mentioned that there's a business there. I think our packet said that they have their own parking lot, and so that people who go to that business are able to park in a parking lot. Was that accurate?
Well, no, Mr. Eddie's barbershop is at the corner of Newhall and Ivy, and he doesn't have a parking lot for the business.
So do you think that are the people parking on the street, are they going to the barber shop, or they're just going
no,
else?
we don't have any problem with the people who come to the barbershop that comes to park. There's a certain time of morning and the evening when they leave, when the barbershop closes. We don't have problem there. It's the other problem we have with people who are coming for other reasons
Sure.
that should not be there.
Sure, and I guess my
And
only thought is, do the people going to the barber shop, will they have a place on the block next to it? Will they still be able to get to the barber shop okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
There's parking that time of day for them.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alder Roth. Alder Winter, any question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Alder Clyburn, for bringing us this item. I just wanted to clarify, the city plan report does say that the commission finds, I see. It says finds more information is needed to make a recommendation. Okay. But they do have most of the addresses have signed. And I suppose you're saying that the barbershop is okay on parking even with this restriction, or would they be able to take advantage of it with the program that Doug set up?
Yes, the barbershop can, they're with us. We're just after traffic that should not be there. You want me to say the word, the problems that comes there.
Mhm.
We have a little selling, and people are coming, one of our residents that used to live there, who was a problem, has, thank God for that. But we're after that, the people who come that don't live in the neighborhood, who's bringing a problem. So this way, the neighbors, because I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe Mr. Eddie's brother signed on for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Alder
Oh,
Clyburn. Thank you,
now I
Madam
can
Chair.
hear. Thank you. I can hear well now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Alder Winter. Alder Smith, do you have any questions?
No questions right now.
Okay. Alder Clyburn, I just want to make sure the city plan reports also indicates that 69% of the homes signatures has been submitted. It looks like most of the addresses are from Newhall Street. There's just a couple that are off. So just to confirm, the residents are okay with this block being residential parking and know all of the rules associated with that,
Yes,
and the guest passes, et cetera.
yes.
Okay,
They've been working on this for a while, talking to each other.
okay. And obviously you approve of this, so, you know, at this time, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I'm just hoping that this would work in that block for them because they need this help on that block there.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any further questions from my colleagues? Yes, Alder Antunes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a concern that you're trying to address one problem with a kind of a obtruse situation or solution. And my concern is, have you talked to your district manager, and is there a plan for enforcement? Because are these cars staying there long periods of time where enforcement can take place? I know, for instance, in my district, the cops don't like to give out tickets. They just don't want to be bothered with it, don't want to confront people. I think it's important that you have a plan together with your district manager or traffic and parking if Doug has a plan for enforcement there, or else it kind of goes by the wayside.
That is correct. That was one of the things that I was sharing with the residents. I said, unless the police, our district manager or what is not, if they're not with us and going to give the ticket when they see someone parking who don't have, you know, the proper things on the inside of that car, then it won't really work for us. I really talked to them about that. And I shared with them other places where they had residential parking. And this was the piece that was missing to make it really work. But they, said this is what they want. So, but I have to answer you about talking to our lieutenant there. No, I haven't talked to lieutenant on it. We have been on that on that block, taking care of other things. But, right now it's really hard. We don't have really a walking beat at all, police anymore, on my end. So in my ward, I don't know about anyone else's. So, but they want this and I'm with them just so they could see if this will work for them, we'll see. So I'm supporting them because this is what they believe that would work.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Antunes. Any other colleagues have any questions? Go ahead, Alder Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Alder Clyburn. You clearly, I can tell you're dealing with a hard situation. I guess I'm just interested in, so you're just limiting it to that block, and will that just shift the situation a block away?
Well, the block, I'm in the next block, and we don't have that problem of people coming. We used to, but we went out, we took care of that on my block. So My block is, was just my neighbors who have more than one car, but we've worked on that to solve that on our block. So, but and on my block, everybody have off-street parking. Everybody on that block that we're talking about, they don't have off-street parking.
Thank you.
All set, Alder Roth? Okay. I see that the Director of Transportation, Traffic and Parking is on. Mr. Houseladen, do you have anything to add regarding this parking situation?
Thank you. Doug Houseladen, 115 South Water Street, New Haven. Thank you for the opportunity here in reviewing. The department's excited to put up signs and as Alder Intunes put it, have an enforcement plan to add this to our routine enforcement in the area. So we're ready to deploy.
Okay, does anyone from the committee have any questions for Mr. Houseladen?
No question.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Any further questions from colleagues in regard to this item? Okay, at this time, I will see if there is any public that would like to speak on this item. So if there is anyone from the public that has joined us and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Okay, for a second time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item?
Madam Chair, it looks like there's someone on a phone.
There's a number, an 850 number, 203-850. Is that someone that would like to speak? Again, is there anyone on the phone or from the public that would like to speak on the item regarding the residential parking on New Hall Street? If so, speak now.
You may need to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Misty, is that someone that would like to speak? Although now I see that they're off. Do we know if that was someone that wanted to speak on this item? Okay, well, seeing that no one is speaking and that was the third attempt in getting info from the public, we're going to move on to item number 2. Is I believe Mr. Zinn, our engineer, is here. And we let him in. There you are.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you very much for having me here.
Good. Just remember to state your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Devani Zinn, City Engineer, 95 Soundview Terrace. So the item before you is to apply for and accept funding from the State Department of Transportation in concert with the town of Hamden to provide raised crossings at the Farmington Canal Line crossings. This is part of funding that's available from the federal government under the FAST Act, under a program called Transportation Alternatives. And it seeks to fund projects that are on assets, especially alternative transportation assets that are of regional significance, the Farmington Canal Line clearly being one of those. So we work together with Hamden because we share the Farmington Canal Line, and also we felt that having a joint application would make us more competitive. And in fact, we came out as the top choice of the Southern Connecticut region for the project because we had, 2 of the votes that kind of stacked together. So what we're trying to do here is we've got 7 crossings of the Farmington Canal Line that are at grade, and have not been raised. 2 of them have been raised. There's one at Webster Street and then at Hazel Street as well. I would suggest that this is probably, the canal line is very important, but I think this even has more to do with the fact that we do have a lot of outstanding complete streets requests as well on the streets that happen to cross the canal line. Shelton Avenue is one that comes very much to mind. The natural spot to do traffic calming is actually right, in that block is right where the canal line crosses. So this is an opportunity to get funding at 20 cents on the dollar. We're responsible for 20%, 80% comes from the federal government on really a traffic calming need that we would have probably budgeted for anyway. There's a bit more headache and paperwork and overhead to deal with, it being a federal grant. So the agreement we have with Hamden is to split the money down the middle. So I think in my letter, it's roughly $1.5 million in total, the whole grant. We're entitled to half of it for our crossings. The way the federal grant works is that there's a minimum of 4, and then we have a maximum of 7 because that's all that exists that we can do with the funding. Quite frankly, I expect them to come in significantly less than that. So we will use the money we get, and then it will, Hamden can do all of their crossings, and hopefully they're able to get all of theirs done as well within the total project budget. But we're responsible for the 20% match on just the expenses that are in New Haven. So if we don't use the full $770,000 of federal money, then we wouldn't be putting in the full $154,000 of match. With that, we're looking to get sort of finalized in the first quarter here. Hopefully we'll get all the grant paperwork and everything. Federal grants do take a fair amount of time to get through, be my hope to push ahead as quickly as possible with construction. It could be as soon as sometime next year, but I certainly would not I wouldn't put any sort of guarantee on that because it's really dependent on all the other stuff. We have in the meantime started to design all the crossings ourselves in-house. We have a lot of familiarity with doing them at this point. And we'll have a public outreach discussion about it as well. And we'll also look at, obviously these raised crossings are at the canal line, but if there's something we can do within a reasonable short distance of those crossings, like if we put, speed humps on the approach to the raised table or something like that. I think we're probably limited by the grant to be within, a couple 100 feet of the canal line. So it's not like we can put speed humps on Winchester Avenue with this money, but I think we will try to do everything we can to maximize the benefit at each of these roads that we can. And with that, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, well, thank you for the explanation. I have a question regarding the 20%. Where will that funding come from the city budget?
So that is out of the, it's called the street reconstruction line in the capital budget. It's what we fund complete streets work. I think it's street reconstruction and complete streets. So it'd come out of that line. And that's where these improvements would have come out anyways, but at the full 100% instead of that 20%.
So you mentioned that if we do not use the full amount, the 772.5, we would not have to pay the full 154.5. Does that mean whatever is remaining of this grant goes back to the state?
I think that's a discussion that we would have with them later on. I think it would go back in the transportation alternatives pool, and we would have an opportunity to get more of it. We could, yes, is probably the short answer.
Okay, so it's not like it's ours that we get to spend.
Right. We don't just get to spend somewhere else on something else. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I will open it up to my colleagues. Alder DeCola, any questions for Mr. Zinn? Did we lose him? I don't see him. Okay.
My email.
Okay,
he's back.
Alder Antunes.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Just one question. Where were you going to put these raised tables?
Let me, so I don't mess it up. I have it mostly memorized, but let's see. Munson, Division, Thompson, Shelton, Ivy, Brewster, and Bassett.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Antunes. Alder Roth, any questions?
I think that the vice chair is back on the call, so I'll defer to him if he has questions and wants to go first.
Alder DeCola, any questions for Mr. Zinn?
He's still working on trying to get logged in.
Okay, go ahead, Alder Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Giovanni. I had just a few questions. I know one of the comments we got talked about hoping that the height of the ramp would be the same like as the existing one at Webster Street. And so I just wanted to confirm that that was the plan to make
Yes.
them.
Yeah, and I had a nice conversation with the person that gave that comment, and you know, we had a good discussion about the different installations in town. You know, we've gone to where the full height of a raised table gets made up over a 4-foot section, and that's what you see on Webster Street, on Hazel. It is quite frankly what you see on Orange and Audubon, which is one of the things that seems to feel a little more gradual. So we're looking a bit at the edge of our speed tables and our raised crosswalks to see, because some of them seem to have sort of a more distinctive edge. So I think as we install more of these, we get a little better on exactly how the different, you know, the subtle things that make or break an installation like this. Certainly if you go down the Long Wharf, I think those are some of the most successful to date in terms of slowing people down. They're aggressive and they do seem to really work. And quite frankly, the PD has had positive things to say about their stopping illegal street racing there. So yeah, we're fully aware of it. I had a good conversation with the person that sent that comment, and it's something we take very seriously.
Great. Thank you for that. And just two more questions. I guess I'm curious since there already are two of them, what the cost of each one will be. I was interested in your saying you'd be thinking of doing speed humps and other things in the approach, which obviously would be beneficial. So I'm just trying to get my mind around how much of that money would actually be spent on the 7 raised tables, and how much leftover potentially would there be for these other items in the approach?
I mean, we haven't designed it all, so it's hard to say. Also, you know, Shelton Avenue is going to be the most expensive because it's the longest and sort of most geometrically complex one. I think there we're going to have to raise the whole intersection. You know, Ivy, for example, is just a straight shot across a narrow street. That's a lot simpler to do. Yeah, and to be very plain, I think the DOT's estimates and what they've allotted to the grant are substantially different from ours, which is why I'm suggesting that it's a decent possibility that will come in at a lower cost. But the lion's share of it is in the table. I mean, the speed hump is, you know, $6,000 to $9,000. So, and again, it remains to be seen whether they would even allow us to do a speed hump that's, say, a couple 100 feet away.
Great, noted. Thank you for that. And my final question, I know you said you weren't sure when it would actually start based on all the steps that have to get taken in advance, but I'm curious, once it starts, kind of how long it takes for each one approximately to be done, and with noting that some are bigger than others.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big ones are about 4 days, probably 3-4 days of construction. A regular one, our DPW crew, I think, got it done in a day, not even. So, yeah, contractor will start losing their shirt if they take too long.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Roth. Alder Winter, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those who are concerned about how much it might cost, can you just confirm that a lot of these intersections already had complete streets requests?
Yes. I mean, in general, we've seen a lot from the neighborhood. I don't remember specifically all of them, but Shelton Avenue, Munson Street, Division Street, Bassett Street, I believe as well. So there's 4 right off the top of my head.
And so, and for a lot of this, we would have done it anyway, but we're going to be leveraging federal money to pay, I think you said 20 cents on the dollar, correct?
Correct.
Are you familiar with what residents call the intersection of the Canal Line and Division Street in my ward?
No, but I get the feeling I'm about to find out.
They call it the Indianapolis Raceway.
Yes.
Or at least one of the neighbors there does. So it's, yeah, very much needed there. And you said there is some possibility, like I'm thinking about Shelton Avenue, where we have 4 blocks that submitted a complete streets petition up to Thompson Street. There's maybe some possibility that we could help those folks out if there's funds left over, and you're able to do stuff adjacent to the Canal Line crossings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a hope and a prayer at this point. We have to submit these all to the DOT, and they have to approve of it and feel that it is in the scope of the program. That being said, we have a large speed hump program. We'll continue to have a large speed hump program. Division Street, for example, is a long-standing request. So, for example, if we get the crossing done, that's the expensive piece at 20 cents on the dollar. Can we, find some city funds to put in the last couple speed humps we need? Sure, that's something that I think we can try to prioritize and get the whole thing, the street done, and then move on from there. So that's sort of the hope here.
And you said this is all coming from the FAST Act? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Thanks.
Yes, I get the irony. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Winter. Before I move to Alder Smith, Alder DeCola, do you have any questions for Mr. Zinn?
Alder DeCola can hear, but unfortunately he keeps getting kicked out and cannot speak. But he did confirm he has no questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Misty. Alder Smith, any questions? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No questions tonight, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you, Alder Smith. Anyone else from the committee have any questions for Mr. Zinn? Okay, I will now open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify regarding this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you, I would like for you to ask. I have questions, but I would like to go through you. If I heard all the places that we would get the raise area. Ivy is one of them, but Hazel Street, I was hoping that we could get speed bumps on Hazel, because that I have been in 2 accidents there. Someone has hit my car just stopping at the stop sign to look, before I cross over. So I'm hoping that we could get some speed humps on Hazel to slow everything down, because that is a fast street there, Hazel. And believe it or not, Shelton is as well. When we have our different functionings there, our events there, we really have to have help, from our lieutenant to help us, because, they speed so much right there. And thank God for, what is being done, but hopefully we can get some speed humps on Hazel, like further down from that corner.
Thank you, Alder. Clyburn noted. And Mr. Zinn, I guess that would lead us to whether or not the process for additional speed humps has to be done, the normal process of petitioning, alder request, et cetera. And also, will any of this interfere with any backlog for speed humps that we already have on the back burner?
No, I mean, so to answer the question, Alder Clyburn, obviously we do have a raised crossing at there already, so I don't think we would be able to do under this specific program speed humps on Hazel Street because we wouldn't be tying into the meat of the program, which is the raised crossings on the canal line. However, that isn't to say that I know you've made that request, and it is one of the many requests that we have on speed humps, and we would address it through our normal process. No, this grant, to your question, Madam Chair, this grant would not somehow alter the normal process on speed humps.
Okay, so if there have been requests made for speed humps already and it's gone through the process, those will still be taken care of?
Yeah, we're prepping a solicitation here just for the spring of just speed humps. It's a speed hump only contract. So if you're in the speed hump business, keep an eye out for it.
Okay, just want to make sure our other residents who have petitioned and have been approved don't get delayed any further, because I know it's a process and it takes a couple of years, if not more, to go through. So no further delays for those requests. Thank you. I see that Alder Singh has joined us. Good evening, Alder Singh. Thank you for joining us. I will ask you if you have any questions, because I'm sure you've reviewed the material. And if you have any questions regarding these speed humps for Mr. Zinn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no question this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Okay, I will again ask for the second time if there is any public testimony from the public regarding this item. And for the third time, anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will now
Madam
move.
Chair,
I believe there was one.
Is there? I don't, oh,
Aaron is
there we
joining
go.
us.
Yep, I see that. Aaron Good, do you have any questions regarding this?
Yeah, I had a little bit of testimony, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Okay. And this is in regard to the item concerning the grant for speed humps and
Yes.
on the, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Aaron Good, 45 William Street. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I lead a group called New Haven Friends of the Farmington Canal Greenway, which represents thousands of walkers, bikers, joggers, rollerbladers, skateboarders, scooterers, every other form of non-motorized transportation you can imagine, and probably some you can't imagine, who use the Farmington Canal Trail in New Haven. And we are in strong support of the installation of these new raised crossings at all of the at-grade intersections along the Greenway Trail. And we definitely applaud the city engineers of both New Haven and Hamden for pursuing the FAST Act grant funding to carry out this project. As you heard, we currently have this type of raised crossing. The speed tables at Webster Street and Hazel Street at the New Hallville Learning Corridor. And these raised crossings have significantly improved bicycle and pedestrian safety at the traffic locations. They work very well. We need more of them. I can say that from personal experience because in 2018, I was personally struck by a pickup truck while bicycling on the canal trail at one of these intersections near the New Haven-Hamden border. If I'd been a less experienced rider and not shielded the impact, I could easily have been killed. It's very easy to get into a complacent mindset because you're riding on a trail. You think you're safe when in actuality, the many at-grade crossings and intersections along the trail are some of the most dangerous places for cyclists in New Haven. And I'm thinking of places like Munson Street and Sheldon Avenue and Bassett Street. These are really very dangerous at-grade crossings. Thankfully, none of the 11 tragic pedestrian fatalities in New Haven this year have occurred on this trail. But there are, without question, intersections like Munson and Sheldon and Bassett that are really a ticking time bomb where there's going to be a deadly collision. It's bound to happen without this kind of intervention. And just to give you a little bit more background, the user conflicts on this trail are increasing as the trail usage ticks up every year. And the trail usage has expanded, increased substantially during this pandemic. So in 2019, we had 110,000 trips taken on the Farmington Canal Trail. In 2020, we project that number of trips to exceed 150,000. And that's based on infrared sensors that we have been using to collect data on the trail usage since December 2017 as part of the Connecticut Trail Census. And these trips are both for recreational use, but they're also for commuting purposes, people going to work, to school, to shopping, etc. So the trail is clearly, we have data to back this up, it's an essential transportation asset for residents. And that's why it is prioritized in this plan of conservation and development as the spine of the city's bicycle pedestrian network. And we're expecting these numbers of trail usage to continue to grow substantially in the coming years as major new residential projects are completed directly adjacent to the trail in New Hallville, in downtown, and in Worcester Square. And that's great, but it is going to create more user conflicts at some of these intersections. So with that in mind, we strongly endorse the acceptance of these grant funds and the authorization of any local matching funds necessary to carry out this significant and much needed complete streets project along the spine of our bicycle pedestrian network. As our comprehensive plan makes clear, continued improvements on the Farmington Canal Greenway, whether new raised crossings or bringing electricity and lights to the learning corridor or the completion of Farmington Canal Phase 4, all of these are an investment in a safer and more livable New Haven. So I look forward to the successful implementation of all of these Farmington Canal projects, not just this one, but also the two others that I just mentioned, which have languished for several years, many years, in various stages of completion. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. That's actually great information to have on hand as to the activity that actually takes place on the Farmington Canal for various reasons, whether it's leisure or for actual work related. So thank you for that testimony. One more time, is there anyone from the public that would like to testify regarding this item? Okay, I don't see anyone else. So at this time,
Madam Chair, I
yes.
move to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Okay, the public portion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on closing the public portion? Okay, seeing none, we will take a vote. Everyone in favor of closing public portion, say yay once I call your name. For myself, yes. Alder DeCola.
Can't talk.
Okay, Alder Antunes.
Yes.
Roth.
Yes.
Winter.
Yay.
Singh. Is Alder Singh?
Yay.
Okay, and Alder Smith.
Yes.
Great. Okay, the yays have it. The public portion is officially closed for those two items. At this time, we will move on to the workshop to hear from our registrar's office and the clerk's office on how the election, the general election went.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, Alder.
Since the item number 1 and item number 2 are actionable items, should we take the vote on that before moving to the workshop?
I guess we could. I was waiting till the end of the workshop to make sure no one leaves.
I think it's only fair to those who came to testify on the first 2 items that we conclude them.
Agree. Okay, yes, we can. Does anyone want to move item number 1?
I move item number 1, Madam Chair.
Second,
Okay, the item has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on item number 1 regarding establishing residential parking zone on New Hall Street? No discussion? I think as a group, we see a lot of these requests coming through. A lot of these requests make sense, particularly in a city that is growing and becoming busier and busier. And there are many roads that don't have off-street parking. So at this time, if there's no further discussion, we will take a vote. Everyone in favor of this item, say yay, beginning. Has Alder DeCola been able to get on?
Alder DeCola just texted me and he is in favor of item 1.
Okay, thank you. Alder Antunes,
Yes.
Alder Roth,
yes.
Alder Winter,
Yes.
Alder Singh,
Yes.
Alder Smith.
Yes.
And myself, I am a yes as well. The yeas have it. Do I hear a motion for number 2?
So moved on number 2, Madam Chair.
Second,
Okay, item number 2 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion regarding what we just spoke about with the speed humps and this wonderful grant? Alder Roth?
I'll defer first. I'll let Alder Winter speak since I think this is partly in his ward. So I think he was about to speak, it looked like as well.
Yeah, I saw both of you move. So go ahead, Alder Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't stress enough how much need there is for traffic calming in New Hallville. Every block, it seems like I go on, but particularly the Division Street block I mentioned, I can't even walk down the sidewalk without someone stopping me and asking what the status of various speed bump petitions are. So this will be hugely welcome to residents there, for their own safety, and to slow down traffic in the neighborhood, and also for the users of the bike trail. So my constituents will call me saying that another cyclist has been hit at Division and the Canal Trail, and that they've either had to call an ambulance or in some cases pick them up off the pavement themselves. So this is really needed, and it's excellent to hear that because of the 4-to-1 match, it'll free up funding for other traffic calming improvements elsewhere in New Hallville and elsewhere in the city where it's so badly needed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Winter. Alder Roth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I want to echo what Alder Winter said. I mean, it just makes, as there's so many complete street requests there already, where as Giovanni said, we're getting 20 cents on the dollar. So it's just smart to do, leaving money for other complete streets needs in that neighborhood and elsewhere in the city. I'm someone who uses the canal path a lot, and I can confirm that usage is up a lot. And so both for people using the path, many of whom are little kids, and also for, as I ride by my bike, I see lots of little kids in the neighborhood playing in areas, and with, whether you're an adult or a little kid, but I particularly worry with them how important it is to have the traffic be slower, particularly at some of the crossings, which are very fast and wider. So I definitely, it's exciting that we have this opportunity. I appreciate the city working with Hampden to seek this grant, and I would encourage everyone to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Roth. And before we move on for further discussion, I just want to welcome our Majority Leader, Richard Furlow, has joined the call. You know, is there anyone else from the committee that would like to comment on this? Okay. I will comment. You know, in light of COVID, I think we see more and more people outdoors trying to get out of their homes to get some fresh air. And it's just nice to know that they have somewhat of a safe place to go and ride their bikes and run their errands and just enjoy the outdoors while they can. So I too am in favor of this item and encourage my colleagues to vote for it. So at this time, if there's no further discussion from our committee members, we can take a vote. So any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's take a vote on item number 2, beginning with my vice chair. Misty, I'm assuming he's going through you, Alder DeCola?
Yes, he texted me and he votes in support of item number 2.
Thank you. Alder Antunes.
Yes.
Alder Roth.
Yes.
Alder Winter.
Yes.
Alder Singh.
Yes.
Alder Smith.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So the yeas have it. The item passes. Thank you for voting. At this time, we will then move on to the workshop. And do we have our guests here? I see Miss Evans, I see the city clerk's office, and I see Miss Napolitano. So welcome everyone. If you can all state your name and address for the record, we can begin with the registrar's office. So Chanel, then Marlene, and then the city clerk's office.
Chanel Evans, 1460 Liberty Grosso Boulevard, New Haven, Connecticut. Democrat Registrar.
Marlene, if you could state your name and address for the record. You'll need to hit, is it *6?
That's correct.
Okay, we'll move on to the city clerk's office. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Mamie Gardner, 13 May Street, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you and welcome. Marlene, are you on? Okay, let's move forward. So let's hear from the registrar's office if you have a report, and then we'll hear from the clerk's office.
Not a problem. I'm just trying to text Marlene to see if she could unmute herself. So there's about 15 questions in total that you guys submitted for us. Some of them we will be combining the answers. Marlene, whenever you are unmuted, please feel free to join in. First question is, how many people use EDR this year and what worked well for EDR this year? We had about 771 people who voted for the EDR portion this year, and it worked out well. I think it went really smooth, had a better system, it was good. Number 2, how do you feel this year's election experience shaped your feelings on no excuse absentee, early voting, and mailing every voter a ballot? Unfortunately, it's not based on our feelings. We have to obey statute and what SOT's guidance is to our office. Sorry, this is her messaging me. She says she can't unmute herself. Marlene, if you can hear me, if it's on the phone, it's *6. Right, Misty? I think.
Yeah, it is *6.
She's not on the phone.
Yeah.
And she's not muted. So she needs to connect her audio.
Is that her speaking?
Nope.
Is that her speaking?
I don't believe so. I believe that's just background noise from someone who's not muted.
Okay, not a problem. So do I have to read all the questions, or do you guys already have this sampled out to everyone?
I mean, if you could give us just a basic rundown on how the election process went for the registrars, if there are any needs for future elections that you found might be necessary. This might be a method of us voting in the future the way we just did. And we want to make sure that the registrar's office is prepared for any challenges in the future. This was kind of, a firsthand try at this method. And we want to make sure that the registrar's office is going to be taken care of for future elections. So give us a rundown on how you feel the whole process went. And once Marlene gets on, we can move forward with some of the answers to those questions. We can also, I'll also open it up to my colleagues. So just a brief rundown.
So with everything being short notice, meaning different changes, it went well with the different changes at the short changes rather. I'm sorry, because she just keeps messaging me, so it's kind of throwing me off. But yes.
Would it help if we move to the city clerk while Marlene gets? No?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm trying to get out of here because I'm actually, I thought this was going to be the timing. I thought at first, never mind. Nope, we'll do it now and get it over with. But it seemed like everything went well. With the short notice that we had with everything, we stuck to our team with the state, everything went well. I'm listening to Anna, so I'm older Festa so much about the whole items being moved. Your questions for 5 and 6 about the CARE Act funding, wasn't sure or aware that the committee can ask about our finances, but if that's the case, I asked you to reach out to Mike Gormany. He has our finance breakdowns for you if you're interested in that. Number 7, did you ask each moderator for the report and on what worked well, what changes were recommended? If so, please share the responses. If not, will you ask them for such a report? So yes, a lot of the moderators said everything went well, and they were appreciative of me going out to help set up and also recruiting more people to help them. Number 8, how many people ended up working at the polls for the polling places and at EDR? There was a total of 520 poll workers, and then there were 31 election day workers. Item 9, how many canceled? Poll workers, about 41 canceled, and about 2 for EDR canceled. On election day, okay, this is a long one. On election day, there was at least one voter who registered at EDR and then was sent back to his ward. When he got in front of the line to vote in his ward, he was told that he should have voted at EDR. Do you have any thoughts on how this could have happened, since EDR workers all were trained to tell people where to go? So basically, did I hear this happening to more than one person? So the people that we heard that this may have happened to, it was handled and they were able to vote. That's the most important part. They were able to vote. 11, what was the longest wait during the day for EDR? About 5 or 10 minutes max. Do you plan to follow EDR process used this year in the future, or are these things are things going to change? I think it worked. We'll continue to talk to our head moderator, see if he wants to make any changes, but it worked very well, and we will continue with that. The polling places chart on the website. So you guys are going back to the whole situation between districts and wards, and you're asking, can we drop the precinct? We will drop precincts for local, but as of right now, for districts and federal, it will remain with a precinct because people get confused with the first number. And it's something that Marlene and I are working on. Once we're finalized with everything, we'll send it to you, send it to the alders, co-chairs, and it'll be posted on our website. 14, would you consider having more people at each polling place who can look up where people are registered and yeah, to look up more things. In the heavier wards, we can do that. Long as the budget allows us, etc. We do not mind. You can help us find the bodies, that would be great. And then the last question is, there was feedback at Yale students did not know their address. They only knew their dormitory when they went to vote. We sent out the list of what dorms go to which polling place. So I'm not sure how that got mixed up, but that was sent out, and we are waiting for a response from them to set up another meeting just to make sure in the future we have the dorms going to the local voting sites for next year. And that is all the questions.
Okay, thanks for the rundown. I guess so you're saying that for the finances, we have to engage Mr. Gorman, but did you have
Yes,
to file an itemized financial report?
No. We didn't
Okay,
have to itemize anything. The state gave us their breakdown and sent it to Mike Gormany, and he distributed.
So what did your office have to do in order to, I'm assuming.
Submit a list of our polling place, list what we're doing for EDR.
Okay, so you just had to submit that information. They calculated the cost and sent it to Mike, or did you have to?
Yes, they calculated it.
Okay, so no itemized expenses. So if we were to help you for future elections to say, hey, we need more money in EDR, or we need more money at the polling places, we don't know that?
So they gave us a certain amount of money that goes to the polling places and a certain amount of money that goes to EDR.
Okay.
So it was, go ahead.
Are you able to identify how much had to go to each one of those, or is that for Mike Gormany to
Yeah,
determine?
Mike can explain that to you.
Okay, all right. You know what, before I open it up, do you all want to ask questions now or wait for the city clerk's office?
You can ask questions now, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, you know what, I will open it up to my colleagues. So
Starting, I appreciate it.
With Alder DeCola, if he can, I don't know if he can speak at this point. I know he's on, he's just having problems with the microphone. I'll move on to Alder Antunes. Any questions for the registrar's office?
Yes, one question I had.
Yes.
It would seem that it would be much easier if we did away with those books, because they're so confusing for the people to use to try and find where somebody should be voting. Isn't that all on computer, where they could have a terminal at the schools and use it that way?
Terminal at the schools, that
Or at the
if they
polling
have the
places
funds,
also?
if they have funds to do that, that would be nice to help look things up. Yes, that would be nice to do if we can get the funds for that for 40 different locations.
Okay, sounds like something for next year's budget item. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Antunes. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Chanel and Marlene, even though you can't, you can't get on. First, Madam Chair, maybe through you, I think it would be very helpful to get from Michael Gormany what the financial information from the state, and to just get a sense of, I mean, we won't always have CARES Act funding, I'm assuming. And so how much of the cost of the election was CARES Act funding versus how much was just from the city budget, and just to get that so we can have an understanding of, what costs what. I just have no sense of how much was from scaled up operations that hopefully hopefully will be in a non-COVID state and won't be needed in the future. So that would be great to get all that information through Michael Gormany. And thank you, Chanel. I have a few follow-up questions. it's great to hear that the moderators kind of gave very positive feedback. I'm just curious, I know I spoke at the to someone working at the polling place where at 200 Orange Street who, said generally things went well, but did have some suggestions, including one of the ones you read about having more people who can look up a voting location. So I'm wondering if there was, even though overall it was positive, if there were any other suggestions for how to do better in the future from any other moderator.
I didn't really hear anything new out the question. I'm gonna try to answer it and just let me know if I'm not answering it, I guess. So we hire more people, so in case someone doesn't show, then they can fill in another position. So we, especially in your area, we had multiple people trying to help them direct to lines and to look things up. Hey, your street is here, it goes to this line, etc. And some of the other wards, the same thing. So yes, in the future, we can definitely put more people in somewhere if need be.
Thank you for that. I think my question, I'm sorry it wasn't clear, was actually more general. If there was any other sort of constructive feedback you got from any moderator, and if not, perhaps maybe it should be more directly asked for as to like, how can we do better? Because one can always improve, there can always be weak spots. And so I think it would be very helpful for the future to kind of know what those things are. It sounds like you didn't get anyone with any suggestions of things to improve.
To the best of my knowledge, at this point right now, it was more of, oh, we just had to switch a couple people around. Can we get more people? But we train our moderators to kind of say, hey, if people quit on the very last second, like the day of, moving people around as need be. Not the primary last year was more of, oh, we're not feeding our poll workers. So their complaint was, can you feed us? So now we made it a priority to feed our poll workers. And so to the best of our knowledge, they're happy.
Okay. And then secondly, I appreciate, I know the chart, which has the districts and the precincts. It has been a longstanding issue that has confused people because they assume the 30, that it refers to wards and end up sometimes going to the wrong place. It would be great. I appreciate you're saying you're going to sort of look at that a bit. If maybe one idea, if you'd be open to this, would be to have a little focus group with some voters and see how they interpret it. And they might just give helpful feedback for how people who aren't familiar with the system, when they see that chart, what it means to them. And if there's any language that could be put next to it to help make it more clear for people. So I don't know if that would be something you'd be open to have a little focus group.
Yeah, it's something we'll take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, yeah, I think my final thing I just wanted to mention was the EDR, because that was something that I ran into someone who had gone to EDR and then was told to travel quite far away to their voting place and had to wait in a long line to come back. And I agree, the most important thing is that those people voted, but where they were to vote was directly across the hallway. And was it that someone, I mean, they went, because my understanding was in City Hall, you go into the meeting rooms and you register and you're sent across the hall. And so I guess I can't quite understand how they, rather than being sent across the hall, could have been sent elsewhere. So perhaps, is it just that more training's needed in the future for folks?
No, they probably, so honestly, I'm not sure where the mix up is with that, because they're directly told to go across to the chambers. So one of our people must have been helping someone at the moment, or maybe took a bathroom break or something, and then guide them around the opposite way. But other than that, to the best of my knowledge, anyone who left EDR to come back, or whatever the case may have been, they ended up voting.
Okay, thank you.
We're all human. So we'll just make sure we have more people to make sure that if someone does go on break at that particular area, that it'll be situated.
Great, thank you. I'll defer, Madam Chair, to my colleagues for now.
Okay, thank you, Alder Roth. Alder Winter, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you say what specifically worked well with EDR this year? Was it having additional staff people, additional computers? Was it the physical layout? Why? I think it's great that we were able to so smoothly, you said over 700 folks so smoothly vote with EDR this year. But can you be more specific about what it was that made it so smooth?
Yes, so the fact that one of your question was what was the longest wait, 5 to 10 minutes, that was really awesome. So yes, having more bodies doing the same thing, just like the plan that we gave you guys a couple months ago, that we just implemented it and it worked out. More people, more computers, it worked out.
That's great. And were there multiple lines as well, or was it one long line and just many people working on many computers to serve that one line?
So there was not many long lines. There's only one line. Is either it goes to the first room or the second room. And again, the line, I don't think ever really surpassed the steps. And that's using 6 feet distancing. So pretty much once they come up, they go to computer, and they're all set. Computer, then chambers, and then leave.
So great, that's great. So more firepower, more computer and people firepower got it done.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain more about what you're envisioning in terms of the voting district labeling changing? Is it are we going to change the way that's communicated, or what do you have in mind?
So right now it's still an ongoing discussion. And once we get a little bit more information together, we'll share that information, but we'll try to make it clear for electors, especially for the ones who switch every year.
I would love that as somebody whose ward is split into 4 voting districts. That would be great. And maybe we can come up with a system for when all the boundaries shift, not in the not too distant future. Like a new way of communicating this. Thank you, Chanel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alder Winter. Alder Singh, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, more of a comment for Chanel. I had the voting poll change, and I want to say it was well staffed, and after spoke to the moderator, and I was out there for the 14 hours. Things went smoothly at our polling place, and was well staffed. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Alder Singh. Alder Smith, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I too would like to make a comment to Chanel and to the city town clerk. I must say, in the position that I was in during election time and covering several polling places, I have to say that you guys did an awesome job at the polling stations, especially in this pandemic, which we're going through, the COVID pandemic. People were being very safe, making sure that everyone that came in sanitized their hands, taking the pens out in which that they had utilized. And the polling places was running very smooth, actually smoother than it would have been if we were during a regular election. And the people were very, very professional. Yes, there was probably a little hiccup, but we get hiccups, they come and go. But I must say, the plan that you all have put together, it was a great plan. It ran to me very smoothly. And the professionalism in the office, as I have entered into your office in the city town clerk's office, everyone was very professional. And I just want to say thank you very much for your service, and for those that work for you. Please make sure that you thank them for me for the wonderful job that they all have done during this time of election, a major election, and during this pandemic. So I just want to say thank you, Chanel. If I had my hat on, I'll take it off to both you and city town clerk. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, Alder Smith, for those comments. This was indeed a very challenging election, and we appreciate the due diligence and the hard work that both offices put in. And, that's why we have these workshops, so we can get a better idea of how to help and assist in any way that we can to make the process run smoother. And before I move on, I just want to welcome our president of the board, Alder Taisha Walker Myers. Thank you for joining us this evening. Are there any other comments from my colleagues?
I'm sorry, Marlene just texted me and said, thank you guys as well. And thank you, Honda, she said. Sorry, just want to put that out there.
Noted. Thank you. At this time, I will open it up to the city clerk's office. May, thank you for joining us this evening. Really appreciate you being with us. If you could give us a rundown of how you feel the city clerk's office did, how the funding may have been spent, and what your take is on how we can help you maybe for future elections.
I'm sorry, can I just cut in right quick? So is the registrar portion is done? We're good on our end?
If you could stay on in case there are further questions, that would be helpful, since we haven't heard from the clerk's office and there might be some engagement there. So if you could stay on a few minutes, that would be great.
Okay, I'm just going to turn my camera off and I'm going to turn my mute button on, but I'll be listening.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll try to stay on long as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chanel.
Okay, good evening, Madam President, and Madam Chair, and all the officers on the board. Good evening to everybody on the line. I may read the assistant city clerk, and you're not going to get Michael Smart tonight. You're going to get May. Okay, and you have a lot of questions for me, but this was a very, very different kind of election for me. I've been here a long time, but this was very different, and I learned a lot in this election. So I really don't know where to start in these questions, but generally in an election we issue approximately maybe 500 to 2,000 absentee ballots. And in this election, it's like 10 times more that amount. So we could start with what the total was in issuing. We issued a total of 16,502, I believe. And what came back, was returned for counting, was 14,212, and that's over 90%, I believe, returned. The challenge was that as many of these applications to put together for processing and then get out to the public was very challenging. You can't do it with 1 or 2 or 3 people, and sometimes volunteers is not going to help unless you have a good system of doing and handling the applications and then issuing them out, making sure everything is correct. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in during a pandemic, and that's another challenge that we had to have, the social distancing and the mask and, temperature checks and, a lot of challenging things went into this election. And then we had the state, the state system that we don't like to use, but unfortunately our arm is twisted and we're going to have to use the state system because of the public's inquiries that need to be answered. So, your first question you have on your paper is about the CARES Act funding. Most of our money, or most of what we used under the CARES Act, was for staffing and for mailing, and then for the personal protective equipment for the staff. That's what most of our money went to, staffing. And then you have, does the state reimburse the city for the CARES Act? I don't know if we get funding back. I know the money came in from the state, and we used our portion. How many absentee ballots were rejected? Not many. I didn't have a total count of rejections. Only on the night of the tallies, we had a few that were doubles, and we had a few that did not have the correct. They didn't send it back correctly. They only put it in an outer envelope, or they used some other different envelope, something that they weren't supposed to do. So there wasn't a great many. I don't have an exact number. If I did have to give it a number, maybe 50 were rejected. And you were asking what were the main causes of the rejection. I just kind of stepped that, and what steps would I take to reduce that from happening. We have a lot of checks in our system and issuing absentee ballots. So, it's really up to the voter to read the instructions. We give a lot of instructions in the absentee ballot, and sometimes too many instructions can confuse the voter. So I'm not sure what we can do differently, but the instructions are there. It says, what is the typical length of time it took the office to process each ballot and application? With the average time in processing a ballot is if it goes smoothly. Number one, you check the name for the CVR system to make sure the voter is registered, the address is correct, and they've signed their application. And then it's just ready to be put together and mailed to the voter. That takes maybe 2 minutes. But when you have 16,000 and you're trying to make sure that everyone who's doing the issuing or preparing that ballot to go out is doing it right, that's a lot of time. You need more than just me and Michael. You need a lot of me's and Michaels to check. So, it doesn't take long, but the city clerks did a lot of pre-work, which the state of Connecticut did not agree with. But we like to stay ahead and not behind. What made our part easy is that after the ballots were issued, we had the drop box. The drop box was fabulous. After people started getting their ballots, then everything started rolling. It was easy for us after that. And one of the questions is, the next question was, how many people dropped off ballots in the drop boxes? More than 80%, even though they had a prepaid envelope. And so what do we all plan to do differently in next election? I don't know what we can do differently. If we're going to continue with the prepaid envelopes, beautiful. If not, then we'll have to think of something. I believe in getting ahead of things before it gets overwhelming is better for me. But that's just me. I'm only the assistant here. You asked the question, when do we finish counting the absentee ballots? We don't really count them. We put them in order and deliver them to the registrars. And what can we do to speed up the process? I'm not sure if you want to go too fast in speeding up anything. When you speed, you make a lot of mistakes. And so, we don't speed. We try to be careful, because every vote counts. Even when we get a voter's name incorrectly, we have to take that. So, and sometimes they don't want to use that ballot. They want you to issue them a whole new ballot. So speeding is not good. But we want to take care and get every vote out as quickly as we can. Your question number 9 on here is from the city clerk and the Secretary of State's office. It will be helpful to understand how many AB applications were processed and how many ABs were received. I gave you that information, but that being said, I don't agree with the state sending out mass applications. The reason, because everybody doesn't want to vote absentee. That's number one. Number two is that when you mass mail, they don't reach everybody. To me, it's a waste of postage. And, you know, it's undelivered for some reason or another, or it's in an old address or something. And I just think it's a waste. And generally, when that's missed, the person who really wants to vote is one of those in that class. You know, I would rather see a more handle on requests, not just mass mailing. I mean, that's just me. The state has to decide that. But anybody who asks the town clerk's office for an application gets one. So that's where I differ with the state. Using and then issuing. We issued using a third-party vendor, which made it real easy for us. But the complaints were that when they looked on the state system, it's not showing a certain status, like the issued ballot or the returned ballot or whatever the state system does. So the town clerk's office will be going to training for the state system so that we can all be on the same page with reporting. Your question 11 is, how do we feel this year's election experience shaped my feelings? No excuse absentee voting or early voting. Well, we have absentee voting. I'm fine with that. If they want to call it something else, I'm fine with that too, as long as a person has the right to vote. And it's your question 14 is on voting by mail. Given the amount of work required in processing thousands of absentee ballots, would it be more efficient to simply mail all voters' ballots rather than absentee ballot applications? Again, no. You have ballots out there just everywhere. And people who don't want them, just don't want them. And there can be a lot of fraud with that as well. It should be, maybe we could talk about a better way to request one or to get one. I think it was working. Well, on a local level, it does, absentee voting works well because you have representatives coming in, getting a batch, mailing them out. You have the registrars going to the convalescent homes, the senior home places, and wherever have you. But mass mailing to me, or mass voting, absentee ballot, that's an open door for fraud. So I don't know. This was just unusual for us. Like I said, generally we'll do 2,000 to 3,000. This time 16,000, and a pandemic. We just weren't. We weren't ready for 16,000. But can we do it? We did it. Can we do it again? Yes. We could do it again, looking at our mistakes. So that's where we stand right now. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
May, thank you for the rundown. I know how hard you guys worked in the city clerk's office. I actually had the pleasure of seeing you at the at Wilbur Cross voting, and you were rushing to get back to the office. So I can't thank you enough for all your hard work that you did to make sure that everyone's voice was heard and everyone had the opportunity to vote one way or the other, particularly during these challenging times. Just real quick, the ballots that were rejected, were you able to contact those voters and were they able to vote?
Some, the ones that came back to us from the mail, from the post office with a yellow sticker. It says undeliverable. If we made the ballot and sent it out, yes, we would open it and try to figure out why that voter did not get the ballot or why it came back to us. Some were just because we left street or an apartment number or whatever. Yes, some, but not all, because we just couldn't find it or it came back again, or I don't know. But yeah, it was very low for ballots like that.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. I guess
Excuse me, in addition to that, in the drop box, now there was more in the drop box, the ballot drop box, of some voters who did not use the serial number outer envelope to drop the box, to drop the ballot in the box. They just used the inner yellow envelope that they needed to sign and drop it in the box. We still accept it, but we have to find their number. We have to find their numbers. It's not just you can't count it because it doesn't have the serial number. It took a little more time to find them because it didn't really have that little computer sticker on it with their information. So it was a few of those, I could say, maybe 25 or something like that. But most we were able to find and write the information on the envelope.
Okay, well, that's good to know that there's a method for you to be able to do that. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues for questions, and I'll start with my vice chair, Alder DeCola. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions. I just want to comment that I want to thank both departments. They were very helpful in with helping with my seniors, with the clerk's office. It was easy to help my residents through the clerk's office. They were very accessible, very helpful. I had to make many trips back and forth. And thank you, May. I love you. And now, Marlene, with your help, Ward 18 came the #1 voting ward in New Haven. We finally became #1. And with your guidance in splitting the list 3 ways, giving me extra support in greeting people and exiting made a difference. And with the redistricting coming up, and we're going to have more play into it, we'll be able to solve a lot of problems. And with the city, us coming up in a couple of years of our redistricting our wards, we will fix problems like Ward 7 and others, that this overlapping will be minimized and everything. So all this will end up working out in the next 4 years. So God willing, we'll all be here to be able to fix these issues. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And even if my face looked all crunched up, you got to forgive me. There was just too much going on. Oh,
well, hopefully you got some rest after a few days of, the challenges you faced. You need a vacation, May.
I do, but you all forgive me for my face. Now my niece said, fix my face. My face is fixed. I can go back to myself now.
Well, we love you, May. Don't worry.
Thank you.
I will now ask if Alder Antunes has any questions. Oh, I think we lost Alder Antunes. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, May. First of all, for all the hard work you did leading up to the election. I know I was in the city clerk's office a bunch the weekend before the election, and there were lots and lots and lots of ballots in there you all were dealing with. And also thank you tonight for carefully really walking through all the questions and giving very detailed answers. It was helpful to hear those. And I also appreciate that you said you all are going to get training on the state system, because I feel like the issue I heard the most concerns from people about was just not being able to see that their application had been received and then that their ballot had been received. And I think that did tie, as you said, to sort of things not getting entered into the state system. So I think that will really help a lot. I guess my one question has to do, I think the other area where people got anxious was just the not being able to get through on the phone. And I very much appreciate how busy you all were. But do you think in the future, and I think you did put out a request at some point for volunteers to help with that, perhaps even earlier to line up if the system is such that kind of everyone can be voting absentee with no excuse absentee voting in the future, do you think you'd perhaps try to line up more volunteers earlier on to help with the phone lines?
Yes. Right off the bat, we should have extra help for phone lines right off the bat. We shouldn't wait. And, we just have to be ready to be ahead of an influx. Like I kept telling the workers here, you can't show up at the fight and think you're going to fight professionally. No, you got to train before you get there. So, yes, if it's up to me, yes, we get people on the phones early. But again, if we're still going through a pandemic, we have to be careful. We'll look at ways, Mike and I are going to look at ways where we can set up other computers in different areas here in the office. And we'll, talk with IT as well to get us phones in other areas in the office. Because when we have this overwhelming amount of in an election like this, we just need hands-on people. We need people to handle things that takes our mind away from getting that ballot prepared. So people, volunteers for phones is a must early on. We shouldn't wait. And the state shouldn't wait to give us money either, if they're going to give us money. So, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for whatever now. This is a new, I wouldn't call it normal, but this is new. And so COVID hasn't gone away. So with this election coming up in 2021, the local election, I don't see it being any different. It may, absentees won't be as much, but I don't see it being any different.
Great. Thank you very much for that response. And again, thank you for all your efforts for many months leading up to this.
Thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome.
You saw it was a madhouse. Oh, my God.
Alder Winter, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also like to thank the city clerk's office and the registrar's office for all the incredible many long days and nights worth of work, and also just the bravery for dealing with all of this amidst the pandemic. I'd agree with my colleague from Ward 7 that I think a lot of the issues we heard about was anxiety related to where someone stood in the process. And I guess to confirm, so this time around, there were two systems, a local system and a state system. And in the future, would the plan be to just use the state system once the training with the state occurs?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. And the idea would be that the regular staff from the clerk's office would get trained in the state system and then would be able to provide training to additional staff who come on as needed for the election?
Yes.
Okay. I think another big turning point with the absentee ballots and my constituents was when the hotline was set up. And the feeling I got from what you just said about the phone lines was that you would set up something like that immediately, where there's like a hotline and a team of folks operating the phones.
Yes, that's what I would sign up to do. But unfortunately, I can't make that decision on my own. So
Right.
I would appeal to the clerk to make sure that happens.
And with regard to the on-site processing of absentee ballot applications and then also receiving ballots, is there anything more about that process that you think worked well or would need changing? Because it seemed like a lot of people took advantage of this sort of early absentee. It's like early voting, but there's also an absentee ballot form.
Well, we've always had the rule that you can vote absentee the Saturday before the election, or whenever the ballots are printed and ready to be issued, you can vote absentee in person over the counter. Unfortunately, there's no in-person contact, so we tried to come up with ways to not deny the voters a way to vote in person. So we were thankful that the weather cooperated most of the time, but it was spur of the moment thinking, just something that we figured we had to do. So it'll be thought about more for the upcoming elections.
And with the changes to the statute, you all were able to open the outer envelopes 3 days before, is that right?
We didn't open any of the envelopes.
No.
We only put them in order.
Only ordered them, okay.
Yeah, we put them in order by wards.
For folks who, I think you said there were some folks who had not sent things back correctly, or there were duplicates. Were we able to reach out to any of those voters to resolve any of those issues to make sure that their ballots ended up being counted?
No, at that point we weren't able to reach out to the voters. For those who showed up in person and we found that they had made an error, we did call them and say, according to their application, if we were able to reach them, you didn't do this, this, and this, and so you have to come back or, and vote again or find your envelope or something,
So if we were to open the outer envelopes earlier in the process, would that give us time to resolve issues like that, some of those issues?
No, there's no need for us to open the envelopes at all. The way it should come back to us is with the outer envelope has all the information. The inner envelope does not. The inner envelope only has a signature, the ballot, the signature, and a date.
Oh, okay. I apologize. So, but you felt like you had adequate time to look at the outer envelopes and see if there were any issues?
Right. Okay.
Only
the ones we could read. If it was on a Saturday and we one of those Saturdays and they put it in the Dropbox and we have their application right there. Okay, we could go back and say, you didn't give us your envelope. Where is it?
Right.
But if it was way down earlier on and sending in your vote, those applications were impossible to go through, because there's an order. We can look you up in the machine, but if we can't read your name, because we don't have a serial. It's all connected to a barcode with a serial numbered envelope.
What about, were there outer envelopes that lacked signatures? Was that an issue?
No, it's not the outer envelope, it's the inner envelope.
Okay, were there missing signatures though? Was that an issue?
No, that
that's
wasn't an issue.
Okay.
No.
Thanks so much, May. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Singh. Any questions?
No question, just a comment, Madam Chair, through you. I just want to thank May and the City Clerk's office and the staff. This was an election of a new structure of voting with all the absentee ballot we have and the staffing, and it's not a perfect system, but we still pull it through, and we're still able to have majority of our voters being addressed on the vote and absentee. So once again, I want to thank May and thank the City Clerk's office for putting this together. Thank you. Thank you,
Alder Singh. Alder Smith.
you.
I just want to say thank you to the city clerk's office. In spite of me giving you a hard time, you did a great job.
To Alder Honda, I usually give you what you want, but this time you could not have what you want. But thank you all for your comments. I really thank you, because it means a lot to us. We try to do the very best we can. We want to give you what you really, really need. But this was such an election of magnitude. I mean, I still can't believe it. I'm still trying to catch up, and we're still here cleaning up things from the election and trying to get ourselves back in our normal place. But thank you all so much, because if I was sharp or crude or something, forgive me. I apologize to each and every one of you, but this was something, it was a lot going on in here, trying to stay safe as well. So thank you all anyway for your comments.
Well, duly noted, May, and just know, even for the future, we are here to help in any capacity, whether it be getting you the proper equipment you need, as well as volunteers. And, thanks to the volunteers as well that offered their time to help you guys out. But we do appreciate all that you have done. At this time, I see I have colleagues, any other colleagues from the committee that would like to interject anything for the clerk's office and the registrar's office? Just raise your hand. Okay, I'll open it up also to my colleagues that are not on the committee. If there's any comments or concerns or suggestions or anything that you'd like to add, here's your opportunity as well to speak. And I also, just while I give my colleagues an opportunity, I do want to open it up to the public, only because at this time, I think it's important to hear from the public, since this was a whole new process for us. It was a challenging process, and I think to hear from those that volunteered and those that were out there helping out, it might be helpful. I do realize, though, we did close the public portion, of the meeting, just to expedite items 1 and 2. Is there a motion from my colleagues to reopen the public portion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to reopen the public portion. I know that someone I can see in the queue is someone who worked the polls, and
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the item has been moved and seconded. Let's take a vote on reopening the public portion, starting with Alder DeCola. Yay, nay, abstain?
Yay.
Alder Antunes, I don't see him on. Alder Roth?
Yes.
Alder Winter?
Yes.
Alder Singh?
Yes.
Alder Smith? and myself is a yes. So the yays have it. And at this time, I'll entertain discussion. I know Alder Roth, you were speaking about the public portion.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I don't know if the people who are in the queue will want to speak, but I know there are people who were engaged with the election and so may have an interest in it, and just wanted to give that opportunity if they do.
Okay, thank you for that, Alder Roth. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to the public. Misty, if you see anyone that has their hand up, and if you can let them in, that would be great. I do see a hand up from Liz, if we can let her in. And if there's anyone else from the public that would like to speak, please raise your hand so we can add you to the queue. Liz, if you are on, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, please. And then the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Elizabeth Saylor. I live at 100 York Street, New Haven. I was a volunteer poll worker. I'm sorry, I was a poll worker at 200 Orange Street, and I echo everybody's impressions that it went well and it went as smoothly as it could. I will say we had a wonderful moderator. It was my second time working with Liz. I felt though that she needed more support. I really think we need another assistant registrar or two moderators, particularly when you're dealing with Yale students. I can tell you what I specifically heard from a lot of the Yale students was, I registered when I moved here, but I was at this college and I don't know the address. I had a lot of Yale students say, well, I'm at this college, but I don't know the street address. So the majority of the people who were queuing up were either people who were students at Yale or people that had recently moved and had not changed their registration. And I felt that the assistant registrar and the moderator did an excellent job, but I do feel like they need more support. And it was mainly, as I said, Yale students who simply just did not know when they registered or what the address was of where they registered. So I would think that it would behoove us to reach out to Yale, and I believe Chanel said that she did, to just maybe next time have them be a little more aggressive in their messaging to make sure that every Yale student that wants to vote knows what address they were registered at. The only other thing that I would say is I didn't see wait times that were long. I know that a lot of people showed up before the polls opened, I think fearing that the wait times would be long, and they weren't. Things went smoothly where we are. I can't speak for the other 39 polling places. And that, you know, I feel like there were some decisions that were made in the beginning by the clerk's office, for instance, the placing of the absentee ballot boxes, that myself and a number of people were concerned about. Having seen what's happened since the election with the, not that it's a surprise, but with the continuing calls for fraud, I can understand why keeping the ballot boxes nearby so that they were not at all vandalized was probably a smart move. It's unfortunate that we are in a position in this country where we have to worry about a pen mark on a ballot box and having someone call it out and say that all of the votes in that box had to be eradicated, which happened in other states. So even though I felt strongly that ballot boxes should be placed in other places, now seeing what's been happening on the national stage, I kind of get it. The only other thing that I would say is, simply because I don't understand it, was the lag time in being able to confirm that your absentee ballot was received. I heard May say that they prefer to use their own system and dislike the state system. I don't know anything about that or what the differences are, but I think it would be a good idea to look into that and figure out what it is about the state system that the clerk's office rejects and why they use their own system and then entered into the state system, because a lot of people were very nervous that their votes had not been processed. But I'm very happy to be part of that process. The day went quickly for me. I was a floater, which was a newly created position, which basically meant that if anyone had to go to the bathroom, I took their place. But there was also directing of people in line and helping people understand what doors to come in, what doors to come out. But I thought all in all, at least where I was, it went smoothly. And I'd like to thank particularly Chanel and the people who organized my polling place for doing their very best. That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this workshop? And for a third time, is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on this workshop? Aaron, is that you?
Yeah, hi, Madam Chair. Yeah,
Just state
I
your
have
name, and address again.
Sure.
For the record. Thank you. And then
Yeah,
the floor.
yeah.
to you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a few thoughts to add. If okay, Aaron Good, 45 William Street, New Haven. Just a few thoughts to add. Mainly, I want to echo, the committee members and just thanking, just expressing gratitude to all the poll workers, the moderators, all the staff and the registrars and clerk's office for, their really, really heroic efforts to ensure that everyone got a chance to vote. Given very difficult circumstances, I think overall the election went, very smoothly. I hope all of our election workers know how much their efforts are appreciated. The League of Women Voters, which is an organization that I work with, we were very glad to be able to work alongside the city clerk staff in processing the overwhelming volume of absentee ballots. We were very impressed with everyone's dedication and professionalism. So there is a national hotline that's called 866 Our Vote, and when people call that about a long line or some other voting problem in New Haven, I'm one of the people who get those alerts. Thankfully, there were not that many this year. The problems on election day itself were pretty isolated. There were issues, as you heard, with Ward 1 and Ward 22 voters going to the wrong polling place. There were some long lines that we heard about in the morning, and there were also long lines in the evening at a polling place in the annex, the Woodward Avenue firehouse. I'm not sure exactly what went on there. People were waiting to vote after 8 p.m., but as far as I know, everyone did get to vote. So those were all fairly minor issues, not out of the ordinary for a high turnout election. As I think we all know, there were some problems with absentee ballots, people receiving them very late or never receiving them at all. Many people have told me they applied for an absentee ballot as soon as possible in early October, but received their ballot after the election was over. One resident, Answers Farwell, I think some of you know her. She told me she just received her absentee ballot last week, and she applied for it on October 5th. So obviously we are not able to control the mail, but we can control the communication and the customer service and making sure there are multiple phone lines open for voters to use, having a customer service hotline number that voters can text and send a text message to. And also having that in-person absentee voting option helps a lot too. And that having the drop boxes helps. And that's interesting that 80% of the absentees came in from the drop box. Hopefully we'll still have the drop boxes post-pandemic. I do think that we can do more with finding different convenient locations for the drop boxes so they're not all clustered at the same location. The absentee ballot tracking issue, I think we've heard a lot about that. I do sympathize with the clerk's office that entering the data into the state CVR system was not their highest priority. But we do need to figure out how to better sync our absentee ballot database with the state central voter database. And it sounds from what the deputy clerk is saying tonight, this is something that's being addressed. But I dropped my absentee ballot in the drop box 2 weeks before the election. It never showed up in the CVR system. So I had to go to the polls in person just to find out that it had in fact been received. And it still doesn't show as having been received. And a lot of other votes have reported to me they had the same problem, including people in very COVID vulnerable populations who had to make an agonizing decision about whether to go to the polls in person to make sure they got to vote. And I do want to join Alder Winter in putting in a plug for having a ballot curing, C-U-R-I-N-G, curing. We can notify people if there's a problem with their absentee ballot, like a missing signature on the security envelope, and the voter can fix that rather than having their vote disqualified. You know, Alder Winter did allude to this in his questioning. It sounds like maybe it was not a common error this year, which is great, but it has been a problem in the past with votes being thrown out because they lack a signature. Arizona, Nevada, those are two states whose laws I'm familiar with. They have very strong pro-voter policies that require the election clerk to notify the voter of a problem, and they allow the voter up to 9 days to cure their ballot. And I think there's a way to do that in Connecticut and New Haven without consuming huge amounts of staff time. And it's related to having good tracking. So voters, you know, sign up to automatically get a text message when their ballot is received, or if there's a problem with their ballot that needs to be cured. I think that's something that's doable. The EDR, much improved this year. I was very glad to see that. I think in the future, it probably makes sense to have 2 EDR locations, which used to not be permitted under state law, but it is now permitted. Middletown and Mansfield are now doing 2 EDR locations because, like New Haven, they have large student populations who use EDR, and they have found that having 2 locations has been useful in dealing with that. So I think that is worth another look. The issue with the Ward 1, Ward 22 voters going to the wrong polling location because of a confusing list on the city's website. You know, some of those voters, they spent an hour in line, I think, at Wexler Grant before finding out they needed to go to 200 Orange Street. You know, I spent several hours on the phone on the night of November 2nd with people from Yale because they were confused and panicking about where their polling place was. This, you know, this is a perennial problem. It's related to polling places changing between even and odd number years. And I think it can be addressed somewhat by better communication, making sure there's, you know, better info on the website, or simply having a sign outside every polling place with a QR code that takes you to the state's polling place lookup, so people don't wait in line only to find out they're at the wrong polling place. And ultimately, as Alder DeCola said, this is a problem that we can address in the next redistricting, which is coming up really soon, so that we do not have the state rep and state senate districts cutting across ward boundaries and causing the polling places to shift back and forth. So just to conclude, I think the fact that, you know, except for the absentee ballot issues, the election went very smoothly. I think that's a testament to having many opportunities for convenient early and absentee voting that relieve the pressure on election day itself so that the system is not overwhelmed. It's a strong argument for making the expanded absentee voting permanent after the pandemic is over. And I hope that this board, your board, the Board of Alders, will continue to advocate for those kinds of changes as it did last year when you passed a resolution calling for early voting as a constitutional amendment. Early voting, this is something every other state, almost every other state has adopted, and it's in the best interests of our voters and our democracy, and we need to make it happen here through our advocacy and your advocacy. So thank you again to all of our poll workers and city staff, and thank you to the committee for your time.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for your comments and your suggestions, and they are duly noted. And, you know, thanks again for testifying. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Again, anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay, for a third time, anyone from the public that would like to speak in regard to the workshop? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public portion of this workshop?
So moved.
Anna, can I, Madam Chair, may I say one comment?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm public or not. On behalf of Clerk Michael Smart, he wants to thank every volunteer, every city staff personnel, everyone who had their hands to come in and help us in the clerk's office with this election. On behalf of him, we thank you all.
Thank you, May, for your comments. And once again, so the public portion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on closing the public portion? Seeing none, all in favor of closing the public portion, please say yea. Alder DeCola,
Yes.
Alder Antunes, Alder Roth,
Yes.
Alder Winter,
Yes.
Alder Singh,
Yes.
Alder Smith,
Yes.
and I am a yes. The yeas have it. The public portion is officially closed.
I move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say yay. Alder DeCola,
Yay.
Alder Antunes, who I don't see, Alder Roth,
Yes.
Alder Winter,
Yes.
Alder Singh,
Yes.
Alder Smith,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, the yeas have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening. Always a pleasure seeing you. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night, colleagues.
Bye.
Miss Maza. Why are you looking like your cat, Miss Maza? You're looking around like your cat.
I'm tired. We're still streaming live.